Good afternoon, everyone. The concurrent meeting of the Sacramento Housing Authority and the Sacramento City Council shall come to order. Would the clerk please call the roll to establish quorum?
Thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Kaplan. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Talamantes. Here. Councilmember Valenzuela.
Here.
Vice Mayor Maple.
Here.
Councilmember Guerra is expected momentarily. Councilmember Jennings.
Here.
And Councilmember Vang is expected momentarily. Mayor Steinberg.
I am here. Councilmember Valenzuela, would you please lead us in the land acknowledgement and the Pledge of Allegiance?
Sure. All please rise if you are able for the opening acknowledgments in honor of Sacramento's indigenous people and tribal lands. To the original people of this land, the Nisenan people, the Southern Maidu, Valley and Plains Miwok, Patwin Wintun peoples, and the people of the Wilton Rancheria, Sacramento's only federally recognized tribe. May we acknowledge and honor the Native people who came before us and still walk beside us today on these ancestral lands by choosing to gather today in the active practice of acknowledgement and appreciation for Sacramento's indigenous people's histories, contributions, and lives. Thank you. Now salute and pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Councilmember Valenzuela. We begin today with a consent calendar under the Housing Authority agenda. As some of you, all of you watching at home may know or don't know, the City Council sits concurrently in different settings, including as a housing authority, which is staffed, if you will, and led by our Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency. So there are times we meet as a housing authority, sometimes we meet as a council, sometimes we meet concurrently. So we're going to start with the housing authority items, then move to the city council items. We begin with the housing authority, and there is a consent calendar. So is there any question or comments on the consent calendar? Moved and seconded by council members Valenzuela and Kaplan. Is there no public testimony, Madam Clerk? All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Oppose, abstain. Now we move to the discussion calendar where we have, well, we have two.
You have one.
Here we go. I'm sorry. We've got the public hearing. Right. Item 2. Go ahead.
So, Mayor, on this item, the recommendation is to continue the item to April 9th. So we just need a motion to continue that item.
Mayor, I'm sorry.
Yeah, I would like to make a motion to move the item until April 9th.
Mayor, I'd like to second that item.
Very good. That has been seconded. Any questions or comments? If not, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain.
Yeah. So for the record, Councilmember Guerra has joined us. That public hearing item was continued to April 9th, and we're now going to convene to the discussion calendar, item number 3, which are city council items.
These are the city council items. All right. Of course, and they do have significant housing overlap, so all for one and one for all, as they say. Yin, welcome to you. Items. We're going to take items 3 and 4 together. Is that the idea? Or are we going to take one at a time?
I believe one at a time.
Okay.
We're prepared to one at a time.
Go ahead.
All right. Thank you, Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. My name is Yayen Isle, City Housing Manager. And the item before you this afternoon is the All in Sacramento, Sacramento's regionally coordinated framework and action plan to prevent and end homelessness, as well as the Homeless Housing Assistance and Prevention Program, Round 5 funding allocation approval. This work, the plan, was developed in partnership between the city, Sacramento Steps Forward as the continuum of care for the city and county of Sacramento, Sacramento County, as well as Sacramento Housing and Redevelopment Agency, as well as a wide range of partners and system leaders, and we want to thank them for their continued partnership. We have representatives from each of those entities with us today, and they are available to answer questions at the end of the presentation or provide additional information. On the city side, this plan was developed in close coordination with the Department of Community Response. So the 2024 point-in-time count was conducted just about a month and a half ago, and while we won't know the results from that count, in 2022, there was approximately 9,300 people experiencing homelessness on one night. However, per gaps analysis work that was completed in 2022, over the course of the year, we estimate that the number of people who are experiencing literal homelessness in Sacramento ranges between 16,500 to 20,000 people. Our all-in plan envisions a path towards a transformed system, one which we're starting to shift towards preventing and ending homelessness while continuing to address our crisis response and immediate needs, eventually reducing the need for additional emergency shelter capacity and the continued cycle of homelessness. The 2022 gaps analysis will be updated later this summer based on the 2024 point-in-time count data, and which is anticipated to be completed in May. We will plan to have a presentation on both of these items once that information is available. The updated gaps analysis information will then also start to put dollars towards the gaps in our system, particularly around rapid rehousing that was identified in the all-in plan. So accountability and how will we know what we're doing is working has been a common theme that we continue to hear. The All-in Sacramento plan was designed to improve the system-level performance measures that both HUD and the state use to track how well we are doing in the overall homeless response system. We have set a priority focus and target around two of the system performance measures. One of them is to reduce the number of people experiencing unsheltered homelessness by 20% between the 2024 point-in-time count and the 2026 point-in-time count, which will be the next time we conduct one. The other system performance measure is to increase the percentage of people who are exiting to permanent housing across the homeless response system to at least 42% in 2024. In addition to measuring our progress at every level, from the system level, as shown here on the slide, to the individual project level, we intend to continue to provide quarterly updates as we have been doing with the local homelessness action plan that was adopted in 2022. And we are continuing to implement the actions and activities outlined in this plan to all serve towards improving our system performance levels. At the project level, we are starting to work to implement recently adopted community standards to increase alignment with and begin to measure performance against those standards. Now, these standards were adopted by the COC board in December of 2023 after a lengthy 8-month process, which included focus group meetings, community meetings, COC, and a public process for comments. While we are not asking the council to approve those community standards today, Appendix 3 of the All-In Plan does reference the rollout for the integration of the community standards, which is anticipated to be a 2.5-year process, including training and capacity building for providers. Appendix 4 of the All-In Plan includes key performance indicators, which are critical to evaluating the effectiveness of our programs across the homeless response system. When comparing our current contract standards to the new community standards, we've seen that a lot of the newly adopted community standards are already in place in our agreements. As we work to renew our agreements, our plan is to reference these new community standards and to coordinate with our providers to ensure that they are able to meet the standards that are included. The standards that were adopted allow for flexibility, and they recognize that each community-based organization and provider are not necessarily at the same starting point. So we anticipate working with each CBO individually to help them meet the intention of the standards. This will help ensure consistency across all of our interventions, and they do allow for exceptions when warranted due to funding or other constraints from the community-based organizations. We do plan to bring these community standards back to council along with an annual report on the coordinated access system in the next few months. So the all-in plan, while this plan and the community engagement process was required as part of the state's HAP 5 application process, our intent from the beginning was to build this plan with involvement from the community. To that end, we held 5 public meetings over 3 dates in December and January to get input from a variety of perspectives. Our sessions attracted nearly 250 unique attendees, including representation from many partners involved in the homeless response system. But we also saw participation from members of the general public. The sessions were collaborative and creative, and they allowed for robust discussion of the issues among the participants. In addition to these public engagement process, we held numerous individual meetings with partners, both inside and outside the homeless response system, and held a number of discussions at Continuum of Care committee meetings. Our goal has been to incorporate the experience and insight of the community to help us arrive at a plan that is forward-thinking, but also implementable as broadly supported as possible. So the solutions to achieve change. Our All-in Sacramento plan provides the overall strategic framework for a unified approach to addressing homelessness across Sacramento County. It builds on the 2022 Local Homelessness Action Plan that was adopted by the board, the council, and the Continuum of Care board, and it details a coordinated and collaborative process that strives to address the challenges of people experiencing homelessness in the region. The plan includes a 3-year framework with a first-year detailed Year 1 action plan is included as Appendix 1 in the plan. It's organized around 8 solutions, and it is built on a set of core guiding principles. Together, these 8 solutions create a framework for preventing and ending homelessness in the Sacramento region. A few key differences between the Local Homelessness Action Plan and the All-In Plan include pulling out outreach and engagement and rehousing assistance as their own solution areas, as well as modifying the behavioral health services to integrated services to highlight our need to develop more intentional partnerships, including behavioral health, hospital, jail, public benefits, and employment. These next few slides highlight a subset of some of the potentially more impactful solutions and actions that we identified in the Year 1 action plan. A couple of ones that I wanted to highlight on this slide include the development and implementation of a system-wide coordinated prevention approach. We heard a lot during our briefings around the need for intentional prevention, and that, and while the COC has already begun incorporating prevention and it puts aside a significant amount of previous HAP rounds into prevention, this all-in plan looks and contemplates the development of a more intentional implementation of a broad, system-wide coordinated prevention approach. The other solution I wanted to highlight is exploring the cost and the scope for a street-to-housing pilot. And we discussed this as well in several of our briefings. Houston, Dallas, Denver, Cleveland are just a few jurisdictions across the country that have implemented a street-to-housing pilot program, and they're showing promising results, being able to quickly move people straight from the street into housing using a housing-first approach. Houston, for example, has been working with this approach since 2011, and they have seen a 53% decrease in its homeless population between 2021 and 2020. On the next slide, I wanted to highlight a couple of other solutions. One of them is to implement a cross-system pilot to identify and engage most frequently served individuals. And so these are individuals that are showing up across multiple systems and with high frequency. And they have a need for us to look collaboratively at looking how we can engage and ultimately connect them to housing and resources that are needed. Another solution I wanted to highlight includes building on the information I shared around the community standards, the training and the technical assistance that is intended to accompany these community standards to make sure that we are supporting community-based organizations in the implementation of these standards. And these standards are meant to set a baseline level so that people who are accessing our services across the continuum have at least the same baseline service. So HAP 5 is a continuation of a series of funding allocations from the state. This is our 5th round of HAP that the state has been allocating since 2019 is when HAP 1 began. Altogether, including HAP 1, the city, the county, and the COC, which are the 3 entities that receive HAP funding in our region, we have received over $173 million for the homeless response system. And as you can see here, this is where our funding has been allocated across the 5 rounds of HAP funding. Each of our 3 applicants, the city, the county, and the COC, we've directed our funding in different ways, but the intent is for all 3 entities to further the same general homeless response plan, which is made explicit in the all-in plan before you today. This last slide here indicates the city's HAP 5 funding recommendation. And so the city is going to be allocated $27 million towards our HAP 5 program. And our first priority was to keep existing programs funded, at least until through June 30th, 2025. And with the funding recommendation we have proposed, we are looking to extend some of these contracts even beyond June 30th, 2025. Our second priority was to look at opportunities where we might be able to shift city funds to HAP for HAP eligible programs. We were able to look at a couple of areas, including some of our sheltering programs, our coordinated access system, into the HAP funds, which shifted about $6.5 million of programs that were previously funded with city funds. Our third priority was to overlay existing programs to ensure improved program outcomes. As you can see, while a large portion of the city's funds are continuing to go towards interim sheltering activities, we recognize the need and heard very loudly that we need to start to shift towards a transformed system. So we have included funding for prevention as well as permanent housing, in addition to expanded street outreach. We recommend that the council adopt the attached resolution, which approves the all-in Sacramento plan, approves the city HAP 5 funding allocation recommendations, and authorizes the execution and submittal of all of the required documents in order for us to submit the HAP 5 application, which is due on March 27th, and to also approve receipt of the funding and related budget authorities. This concludes my presentation, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. I know this is one of 2 presentations this afternoon, and in some ways they go together, but this is a separate action item, and we will take them separately. Do we have, excuse me, public testimony?
Yes, Mayor, I have 2 speakers on this item. First is David Drellinger, then Jeffrey Tardigia.
Welcome.
Thank you. All right. Hello, City Council and Mayor. I'm David Drellinger. As some of you know, I was defeated by Councilman Guerra in this, or at least it looks that way, that he's going to prevail and retain his seat. So rather than waste time pointing fingers and get into the weeds, I still have a purpose that motivated me to run for city council to begin with. And that was back in 2019 when I started looking into these alternative forms of housing. What you have before you is a simple Amazon search that anybody can look up. These are about $14,000. They're delivered for free. And what this is a prefabricated form of housing. They're pallet housing, essentially. They come with basically bathrooms, kitchens. This kitchen is prefabricated and built in, and as well as this bathroom. I've heard various numbers, all of them in the 6 figures, up to $560,000 for a single unit for 1-bedroom apartments that we've expended out of these HAP funds. These are $14,000. They are built in China, which I understand there are some issues with that. There's a similar company called Cal Homes that presents a similar product, a pallet home. They fold down and they can be unfolded. I would ask that you guys consider, when you're looking at 60% of the budget from these HAP funds are going into interim housing, this is a form of interim housing. And the city has land. We have land on the retired military base in District 6, in the Office Depot. It's called Food Link. And we actually have a 30-acre baseball diamond there that could very easily be retrofitted and used for this purpose. The thing about these types of housing is that they're not permanent, they're temporary. We can pick them up and move them to wherever we most need them, where we realize that we have the land. So I would suggest you guys consider all these creative methods of resolving this issue. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Jeffrey Tardigia. Mr. Tardigia, would you like the handheld mic? Thank you. Thank you.
Jeff Tardigia, an advocate. I am here because, once again, we have, for the point in time count. And city, I'm sorry you didn't do a great job, but it needs to be better improvements. I'm appreciating seeing the cooperation, the 6 months that you've had on through here. And I will remind for any other board member that's interested, city council member that's interested, review the legislative office on mental health that looked at Los Angeles County and what they're doing, and they have 30,000 plus city and county individually. So we don't want to be in that shape, but please, recommending that, hey, you're going forward with this, you're now reviewing and you're looking at seeing what is succeeding and what are issues. And, finally, it's about time for that. That's my comments today for this. Thank you.
Thank you for your comments. Mayor, I have no more speakers.
All right, thank you. Now let's turn it over to the members of the City Council, and I'm going to begin with Councilmember Kaplan.
Thank you, Mayor. Just a couple of questions, Yayan. I do want to thank staff. I think if you take the time to read through the LHAP, it's got a lot of good information and data, especially that we've been talking about as we look at kind of who we contract with for homeless services. A lot of data, especially our audit, making sure our auditor has all of this information that has been pulled together, I think can be very useful. I do want to acknowledge all the work that has been put in, and in general, I am very supportive of the LHAP and where the money is going, and don't have questions with that. But I do have questions because I think it's important when we look at processes and adopting new protocols. Generally in the city, we have a process. And one of the things that I did bring up to you, Yayan and staff, is I heard about the community standards. Specifically as they're laid out in Appendix 3. But one of the things that concerns me is while this was an 8-month outreach process and the Continuum of Care did approve this in December, at no time that I know of, there was an outreach process to council. Do you know if Sacramento Steps Forward or the city did an outreach to the council regarding the document?
I don't believe so, but I believe that city staff participated on the team in development of the standards. I was at SSF at that time.
Yeah.
And so we did have city staff who participated as part of the core team in the development of the standards, but I do not believe it came to council specifically.
So one of my concerns is, and I understand the outreach and the engagement process, the actual language of the community standards is a 79-page document. Was that attached to this report or to city council?
This was not attached to this report because it's a standalone document and we weren't seeking approval of it. And so the appendixes reference the implementation schedule as well as the key performance indicators. It is a document that we intend to share out with council members. We have a wide range of documents that were requested during our briefings, and our intent is to share that out, including the community standards that were adopted.
So part of it is, I think I have a process concerned because they are mentioned in Appendix 3. And while I heard you say this is aspirational, this is also encouraging as one of the motion on this is to approve the LHAP as well as the All-In Sacramento. And the All-In Sacramento includes the community standards. So in effect, my vague legal mind says, well, you've told me it's aspirational because it's in the index and it's part of the All-In Sacramento. In effect, it is approving what the COC approved on December 13th without having the council. And here's the thing, I've gone through a fair amount of the 79-page document. I can't say that it's wrong. I know the city of San Diego only has 20 pages, but I'm concerned about this could be implementing new process. This is something we're adding into every contract that we have. And I think it's important while that the COC in Sacramento steps forward and the city staff, we're ultimately responsible. We're the ones that approve the contracts. And I think on a process-wise, before it's ever mentioned, put in, for this, that the council should have had a chance to get a briefing on the 79 pages, understand what's coming forward, ask any questions before it's put in front of us. And so for me, I am very uncomfortable that this is putting the cart before the horse. I'm not saying I'm opposed to the 79 pages. It could be exactly where we need to go, but bundling this all together without, one, having been briefed as a council member, two, just approving something. And I hear you that you say it's aspirational. I'm just disagreeing with you.
Yeah.
When we have something and I am giving my vote, the All-In Sacramento does include these community standards and does include the implementation. And my biggest concern is with the implementation plan. I haven't heard from all of our CBOs. Can they implement this? Is this going to create less individuals who are going to apply for this funding? Is there a disadvantage, or can everybody meet these standards? I did review some of the questions and comments from public comment, but part of it was we don't know how all of this is going to integrate. And for me, that's where I could have asked all of these questions. Had it come first, we had a discussion, I had a briefing, versus it just coming up and not be included. I don't want to, it's important for the city that we're transparent. And to me, this feels like a little bit of hiding the ball because there is a 79-page document that was not attached. I hear the city saying it's aspirational, but in reality, the appendix has an implementation timeline, so in reality it isn't. We are implementing this without that feedback. So for me, I am fully supportive of the LHAP, but I think as a process-wise, I can't be okay with Appendix 3 in the timeline because we as the city have not seen the 79-page document that could significantly change things for discussion.
Can I ask a clarifying
Yeah.
question on that score? Is it a public document? Is it on any website, or
Yes, it is
where is it?
on the Sacramento Steps Forward website.
When was it put on the website?
In December of, yeah. And Lisa, would you like to come speak to a few things about the community standards? Yes. So it was adopted by the COC board on December 13th, and it was included on their website shortly thereafter.
Go ahead. Why don't you?
Good afternoon, Lisa Bates with Sacramento Steps Forward. Thank you. I totally understand and hear what you're saying, Councilmember Kaplan, and it was not our intent to try to not make this more widely available, but really what the process did was build upon a lot of the existing contracts that the city and the county have. So it wasn't done in a vacuum. It started with the basis of what we already do in the way of contracting in our community, and then looked at evidence-based practices across the community. Sounds like you've researched San Diego, incorporated focus groups. Anyway, we went through a very long process, 8 months, adopted it. What this attachment to the RCHAP does is it does set sort of like, this is the intention of where we want to go, but you all have the ultimate authority in terms of what contracting you choose to do and how you choose to do it. So it's not excluding any of that authority or opportunity. It's stating, here's the general direction that our community has agreed to as adopted by the COC, but it has a lot of flexibility within it in terms to modify based on circumstances or issues that may arise. It's also going to be a very iterative document. So just because we adopted it in December doesn't mean it's one and done. So part of this process is to test it. And the importance of having standards, as Yayin had mentioned, is that, you know, we want to be able to establish some baseline for reporting out. And so, and having that transparency. So part of the timeline is, it's pretty three-year timeline, is first, you know, sharing the data that we have. And then to the extent that the city or the county can start to incorporate it into your contracts. And the feedback will be helpful. The hearing that we have, that it sounds like was being proposed, all that's helpful information to help inform the continuation of the build-out of the guidelines. So you have, I would say, a baseline document, you have standards with, you know, intention, but there's plenty of opportunity to modify and adjust as needed.
And Mayor, this really just comes to, I actually agree. I just feel like when we're trying to be abundantly transparent with what we're doing, having the council have the ability to look at it before we adopt it and have it come forward. I get Sacramento steps forward and the Continuum of Care adopted this, but my office didn't get an email to look at this. I haven't had a chance to fully talk to any concerns that CBOs may have. I get that this is aspirational, but it is bringing up a little bit of cart before the horse, you know, in that. And that is part of my angst on this. We want to be transparent. We want to have accountability. We want to have consistency. But how can we do that when the council wasn't briefed and we're expected to bring this in? And I hear that it's flexible, but it still goes to, we're adopting the all-in, which authorizes then the city manager to make all contracts consistent with the community standards. So in effect, we are passing the 79-page document with the language that is in the motion. Madam City Attorney, am I reading this wrong?
No, that's actually what the council's being asked to do, exactly what you're saying.
So I hear it's aspirational, but if we approve this in the all-in, we are actually approving the 79-page document. Okay. I happy to approve the arching standards that are in the appendix without the 79-page document, for it to come back or have a discussion and maybe approve that next week.
Okay, but let's just clarify again. The way I understood it from Lisa Bates and from again is that we wouldn't actually be finalizing the standards in any way. It's just sort of general direction that how about this? That the motion include a request that it come back for more detailed discussion and final approval, because I think we want to move this forward. I think that would that satisfy?
Yes and no, as long as it's very clear, because our city attorney just said if we approve this with the language as set forth in the motion, we're actually approving the 79-page document.
We're approving it as a preliminary direction about standards, but so long as there is a promise to come back and have us approve the final standards, and that's a commitment and part of the motion, I think that should do it.
Okay.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you so much. Councilmember Guerra.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. First, I want to thank you, Yayan, and all of the partners that were involved in putting this together. And first, I think to talk about the effort that has been undertaken to bring in a number of the folks across the county to put this together. I think that's an important factor, and breaking it down from every aspect of the complexity of the need that people have. So more importantly, I think that this is in our city's history very transformative, that we're taking an active step saying that that we need to have a very comprehensive approach with detailed benchmarks, recognizing who all the different, not only just providers, but who has certain roles and responsibilities in moving forward. So for one, I also, I'm going to just make this quick here and say that I fully support the direction we're moving now. I do have concerns about the community standards. And so just to be clear, I'll make the motion right now that we move the staff recommendation and with staff direction to come back with a response from the community-based partners by the July 2024 benchmark. Here we have that's the second phase, if I'm correct here, under the community standards. And so, good, thank you. So I'll make that clear. But here's I guess a fundamental question. I mean, the Continuum of Care Board, which represents a lot of the partners, some who have expressed concerns, what were their concerns about the current community standards?
Lisa, can you address that? Thank you.
I think we've actually published we did a public comment session, and then we produced the response to comments. So we did a very thorough process to both request comments and then get them. And so, a lot of them, I will say also, we have addressed in the comments. So where there were questions asked or.
Well, I guess specifically, look, I've talked to a few of them, and my understanding is some of them are already meeting, or if not exceeding, those standards.
Sure.
Okay. So, and at the moment, I can't think of a particular organization that is that I would say has fallen behind. But I do get concerned when we have active partners that are achieving well, bringing up issues that these community standards are going to be very restrictive, and in fact, not give us the ability to execute forward. So rather than going through each one of those concerns, when this comes back in July 2024. I'd like to make sure that there is a direct response with those community-based partners that are doing the hands-on work every day. So I'll leave it at that. I think I did, one of the comments that I did receive was on the funding for permanent housing, the $2 million allocation. I know from like the Hope Cooperative project we're doing on Power Inn Road, I think the contribution there was $3.5 million, so $2 million really doesn't move the needle. Now, it helps us in the matching funds if we're going to be competitive. My assumption is that the $2 million is used for us to create competitive applications by a mixture of pooled funds. Is that correct, Yayan?
Correct, yeah. So for example, the Roadway Inn project, we provided funding to SHRA, who's also working on that project through a home key application. And so our funding helps support and close the gaps on some of these permanent supportive housing projects. We have also in the past funded the La Mancha project, which also was coordinated through SHRA. And we've also put funding into the Bridge Housing Project on Arden Way, which will soon be beginning construction.
Good. Well, thank you very much. I know there are some folks who are saying, well, $2 million is a drop in the bucket. Of course it is. And so this is where as we move forward, we need to continue to look at that. But with that, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to, again, thank everyone. There's been a lot of iterations. I think the community stakeholder meeting that was held last year and brought everyone at Sac State, there to participate. I really think we need to engage more of that, and I hope, and this is a call for our colleagues in the other cities in the county, that they will continue to support these efforts. I think this regional approach is a way to just make a step forward. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Okay, I've got now Vice Mayor Maple, excuse me.
Thank you, Mayor. And just first off, thank you so much to Sacramento Steps Forward, to the team at the city, to the county team, and to everyone who's been a part of this. This is a lot of work in the making, and I think happened at a pretty compressed timeline based on, and maybe I'll start off with that as my first question. This is more for everyone and anyone who may be watching in the public iteration is, was there any direction from the state about how we should structure such a plan so that we would be most competitive for funding at the state level?
Yes. The state's application, they have an online application form, which is essentially what they're calling the Regionally Coordinated Homelessness Action Plan. So we built our plan around the requirements of the application to ensure that we were covering all of the aspects so that we can take what we've developed in this nice plan and put it into their online form.
Awesome. Yes, and I think that's such an important point to make here is, our incredible staff and team came together with this direction from the state and the governor's office that we need to be collaborative, and we need to be regional in our approach. And the reason for that is for a lot of good reasons, right? We need to be working together to maximize our resources, to make sure that we're being efficient in the work that we're doing, sharing best practices and all the other great things that are a part of this. So I just really appreciate that, and I believe that, what's outlined here for the most part with some changes that might come up, I think this will make us very competitive for that funding, which we desperately need at a regional level. And so I just really wanted to point that out. I also really wanted to thank everyone for the amount of community outreach that went out to this. I attended one of the sessions at the Sierra 2 Center in Curtis Park and was really impressed with the way that it was structured. And we had, the room was packed. It was really impressive for a weeknight to have that many people come out and want to share their input and their perspective. And I think that goes to show again that this is the most important issue to the people of Sacramento right now. And so I appreciate the community outreach that went into it. And some of the examples that you pointed out, the pilot to engage the highest frequency individuals, I think that's a really good strategy. And we see this not just in homelessness, but in public safety as well, in our fire department. If we focus on the people who are most using the system and we can help them into the right service or the right housing, then we can focus more energy on others who need the help as well. So I just wanted to point those things out, wanted to appreciate everyone, and also wanted to tie this in. So there's the HAP funding, there's the regional plan, which is what we really need in order to be most qualified for that funding, and then I'm going to add my own kind of narrative here, which is I am a broken record on this front, but I really believe that this is one step in the direction towards having a more formalized structure so that we as a region can manage this. And I love the work that Sacramento Steps Forward does and all of our teams, but I think it's so important that we have a very formal structure that we're able to actually allocate resources and talk about these strategies together. And so I've not been any stranger to talking about the Joint Powers Authority possibility, but I did want to uplift this really great report. I want to thank the county for your work. They had a consultant that put together a list of options for shared governance models as it relates to homelessness. And it really, don't ask me why, but I was watching a video of the city council from 2010 yesterday. And one of the things that was discussed at that meeting that I watched was this very thing. And so it's been a lot of years in discussion in the making, and I hope that we can take some of this information and as policymakers across the region come together to figure out a way that we can more formalize our structure, building upon the great work that's already happening, but really ensuring that there's accountability moving forward for what each jurisdiction is doing and what their roles and responsibilities are. So I will get off my soapbox, but I just really, again, thank you so much for the work and excited about this.
Thank you. And I would like to add that is one of the documents that we will be including in our package for the council. Vice Mayor Maple and Councilmember Guerra on the Sacramento Homeless Policy Council. And this item was discussed at the last Homeless Policy Council meeting on Friday. So we will make sure that everybody has a copy of that document.
Okay, I've got Councilmember Valenzuela.
Yeah, thank you, and I'm so glad you're with the city, Yayan. Can I just say, sorry, Lisa. I know we took her from Sac Steps Forward, but you've really settled into a pretty complex role really well, because it's hard to manage. We don't make homeless decisions really quickly or lightly. There's multiple jurisdictions. There's Sac Steps Forward. There's a state. There's the feds, and so I appreciate that you've all taken the time not to reinvent the wheel by building off of things the city and the county are doing, and really trying to be as efficient as possible. The numbers in this report really struck me, because you said 15% of households experience brief homelessness and can resolve it quickly with limited assistance. Another 38% could have avoided homelessness altogether with targeted and timely prevention assistance. That's 53% of the people on our streets right now. I don't know if we fully comprehend that. When I mention that to my constituents and say, hey, what if we could get half of the people off the street tomorrow? And they all perk up and say, is that even possible? And I think what this report and when you look at this chart and how you want to shift the model and how we do work from business as usual, really reacting. Because when we're sitting in this middle column, we're sort of spinning our wheels, we're spinning our resources, because we're not preventing people from entering homelessness, we're not getting them out of homelessness, and the data shows that we could be getting a lot of people out of homelessness and keeping them out of homelessness with some very clear interventions. And I applaud that part of the goal is to keep our existing services online, because I know I have been a champion of that, but I cannot, and I know Councilmember Guerra mentioned this a moment ago, $2 million for prevention and $2 million for housing is a drop. It's like smaller than a drop in the bucket. And I know you appreciate that. And I know we've talked about this also with the regional plan that we adopted through the partnership agreement, that it's like, well, gosh, a couple $1 million a year is great. And we're definitely not sneezing at that. But it's given the amount of need we think we have, such a small amount of money. And so I wonder if you could put in context, and I know this might be a hard question, but since it's you, I'm asking it anyways, because I think you might be able to answer it, how much money we would need if we were going to successfully transition into this transform model. I know part of it is, hopefully we need less intermediate services. We can funnel more of these HAP resources in the future, but we're kind of stuck in that chicken and egg where it's like we're using so much resources for this middle triage step that we don't have the resources to spend on the prevention and housing steps. And so part of it's a question of how do we get ourselves out of this dance, and like what is that dollar amount that we might need one time to say, hey, we're going to infuse this into the system, and then be able to pull back hopefully on some of these intermediate services because they'll be less likely, because hopefully a lot of people will be off the street.
Yes, so that is part of the work that is happening right now through our consultant who worked on our 2022 gaps analysis. There is work underway to update that 2022 gaps analysis, and part of that work includes putting the dollars and the numbers to the gaps that we see in our work. So we should have that information late summer, and intend to share that out at that point. I will also say, to address the prevention question, is while that is the city's contribution towards prevention, the continuum of care has also invested significantly towards prevention. So if you look at the chart that was on slide number 8, that shows our entire regions. And while 10% is still a small amount towards prevention, it is certainly a little bit more than the $2 million that the city has put in. The COC is looking at putting $6 million of their HAP 5 towards prevention with this round, and has invested significantly with past rounds. So it's kind of working together across our 3 jurisdictions to look at all of the needs and where we can fit in.
Okay. And like all of this, because there's a lot of little wedges to this pie, is all of this going to be accessible through the coordinated access system, or how do people in the community understand who they call and where they go if they're at risk of becoming homeless, or maybe recently unhoused and needing money to get housed again?
Yes, the intent is, and the prevention certainly is going through 211 and the coordinated access system, and that's part of the action that's been identified in the year 1 plan, is to develop this comprehensive coordinated prevention program, so that we don't have all these different prevention programs floating around that nobody knows how to access.
Because I think about like the program that SHRA stood up during the pandemic with the Emergency Rent Assistance Program, which was, I think, wildly successful, massively underfunded, but very successful. So like how do we, and this is sort of the chicken and the egg of doing this that I keep trying to explain to my constituents, is when you have so many different sources of funding, it's hard to put them all completely under one umbrella, because so how do we ensure that programs like someone like SHRA, we're not duplicating infrastructure by standing up a whole different program when they also get CDBG money that also goes towards things like prevention? Yes.
A lot of coordination.
Okay, but that is the goal though, right? I mean, to
Yes.
look at, okay.
Yes.
Okay, cool. I'm looking at Christine in the back. We can talk about that another time. Okay, and I guess that's my bigger takeaway here, is not just I'm eager for that gaps analysis number, but also really eager for how we make a system that makes a little bit more sense. Because I worry that each time we do this pie chart, we're taking a chunk of administration, and we're taking a chunk of outreach, and we're taking a chunk to stand something up like this that I hope we can start reducing, so we can be funneling more resources towards housing. But that's my point. Thank you again for all the work, for everybody in the audience who worked on this. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Council Member. I have a few myself. First of all, on the gaps analysis, I thought the LHAP, the so-called Local Homeless Action Plan, actually detailed all the specific gaps in terms of the numbers of additional permanent supportive housing units needed, the number of shelter beds, the number of outreach workers even that we would need. Is that correct?
It did, however, it didn't have the dollar amounts tied to them. And so that's part of the updated work that we're going to be doing.
That you're going to be doing. But that basic information, at least in terms of the numbers, is available. Okay.
And there is, part of the update too is to incorporate the 2024 point in time count numbers. And so the 2022 gaps analysis used the 2022 PIT numbers. So once we have the new 2024 point-in-time count numbers in May, part of the gaps analysis will be an update. And Lisa, is there anything you want to add to that?
Okay.
No? Okay.
All right, ditto on the prevention
Yeah.
dollars. I mean, even the gaps that are described in the new report indicate that, what, 2/3 of the people who are considered homeless could be just briefly homeless if we made that early intervention and help prevent them from becoming homeless in the first place. So, I mean, in terms of an overall strategy, and I know it's a dollars issue, that's really where it is. And it's the old catch-22, because we're spending all of our money on the new beds and the services. But this is a serious conversation to us to all have with the county as well, about is there another way over time, or a trigger, so to speak, by which we might rebalance that. I want to ask Lisa Bates a question, if I might, please. And this is one that it may be the most obvious question, but I'm not sure it's been asked publicly, and I want to make sure that I ask it, which is, Lisa says, you have crunched all the numbers over the years. How many people have the city and county gotten off the streets since 2017, since 2020, since 2022? And let me define my terms. Gotten off the streets from unsheltered status to being housed either permanently or temporarily long-term. What are those numbers? I know that there was a number from 2017 to 2022. I know I cited in many speeches, but I don't know that it has been actually articulated here. And then, of course, beyond 2022, what the universe here, because it's going to lead to the point I want to make here in just a moment.
So we are trying to get an updated number for you. I know you've been asking for that. I think between 2017 and 2022, we've been giving you a number of around 17,000.
From unsheltered status to being housed in some
From
form.
literally homeless to being
In the
housed.
city and the county.
In the city and the county.
Not sure what the proportion is between the city and the county, but probably 2/3, 1/3. I mean, if we're following the...
But we do know that your housing placements have increased significantly over the last couple of years. And so we're trying to get you that adjusted number for 22 and 23. But presumably 8,000 or 9,000 more people have been, I'm going to give you a range, have been housed in the last couple of years.
I'll take your $8,000 number, your 8,000 number, and I would say no. I mean, the public, I understand there's only one measure which matters, and that is the way people feel and see and experience the issue. But in part because of these 5 rounds of HAP investment, the other city investments, the county investments, collectively, we have gotten 25,000 people from unsheltered status to housed over the last 7 years, correct?
Yes. And I would say that your system data is showing that impact and that investment from absolute numbers.
Thank you. Now I'd like to, if I might, make my point and sort of take Councilmember Kaplan's point, but maybe take it in a slightly different direction, though I agree with you. Let's get all the information out front as early as possible. No objection there. I have sort of a different take on all this. First of all, the answer that you just gave illustrates the importance of easily understandable data for the policymakers and the public to be produced regularly. And I would argue that at least co-equal to every other priority that we have, developing a true outcome-based data system for homelessness in Sacramento City and County is the most important thing we can do, because it is true accountability. It drives investment decisions. It drives questions of where changes need to be made and had. It provides us the true roadmap of how we not only continue along that path of getting more people off the street, but preventing people from becoming homeless in the first place. And if we're honest about it, it's not just here in Sacramento, by the way. If you want to know what drove Prop 1, now that the election's over, I can talk about it. I know it's a very close result and still not absolutely decided. It's up 50,000 votes. I only check this every 17 and a half seconds. It's up 50,000 votes. It probably will win, but we don't know. We don't know. There's more votes left to count. But you want to know what drove Prop 1? It was the lack of outcome-based accountability. That's what it is. Because the public sees all the money being spent. They don't know the 25,000 people that we've gotten off the streets, and maybe that isn't their primary measure of success, as I said earlier. But they want to know, in an easily understandable, digestible way, how this money is translating into lives saved and neighborhoods improved. And they don't see that. And so I'm actually really encouraged with this RHAP and the fact that this question of outcome-based data is at the center of it. And so I have a different observation, maybe slash, I don't, it's not a criticism, but, you know, take it in all the good ways here. I actually have a different issue with the 79 pages. And that is, I think if we cannot produce the data in 2 or 3 or 4 pages around the things that people most care about, that we are, 1, trying to make the perfect the enemy of the good, and 2, we are doing too much wonky systems work at the sacrifice of actually explaining to the public what's going on. And I want to give you my real life example because, and I know, you know, you talk about the old days and all that. I know, I'm a little older. I don't have much hair, you know, but it is what it is. Back in 1998, when I did my first mental health bills, the AB 34 and 2034 series, those of you in the mental health world, you know about those bills. And Sacramento County, by the way, was one of the original pilot counties. We invested first $10 million and then $55 million in what we called integrated services for the homeless mentally ill. And it was the full service partnership wraparound model is what it was. And back in the day when there was a State Department of Mental Health, they did a great job of showing within several months that the target population, it was 1,000 the first year, it was 5,000 consecutively after that. They compared their lives the year before they entered the AB 34 programs and the year after. And it was really simple. They showed decreased days of homelessness, decreased days of psychiatric and emergency room hospitalization, decreased arrests, and it increased nights or days of either shelter or housing. Simple. Wasn't 79 pages, and I'm sure there's a lot of value in those 79 pages. That success is what led to Proposition 63. Because we saw that and said, well, is $55 million, which is wasn't enough to really, quote, fix the system? And it wasn't. And we looked at those results and we said, if we can create that kind of success in Sacramento County, in Los Angeles County, and Stanislaus County, then maybe we can do it statewide. And so that's how we did Prop 63. And of course, it passed with 53% of the vote. And then the concern over 20 years, and I said this during this latest campaign, in my view, the counties have spent the money well, I think, by and large. I just don't think over 20 years it has been focused enough on the original intent, that integrated services for the homeless mentally ill. And that's why we have Prop 1. So now all of us, and by the way, with the closeness of the vote, the public is saying loud and clear, you better show results for any of this new money, including if there's a HAP 6, which, you know, and a HAP 7. And so I hope that the 79 pages, that you keep all that, that's all good. Make the reporting as easy as possible for the nonprofits, because I think that's what maybe Councilmember Kaplan was in part alluding to, is the complication of having to spend so much time on paperwork, but make it relatively simple. And let's highlight with every single venue we have, from social media to the television, to the press conferences, to the newspaper, to everything, to billboards, what we are tracking over time in terms of increased, in terms of the direction, positive direction that all this seems to be going in because of our collaboration. That's the opportunity here. And this communication and making it digestible and understandable is every bit as important as the actual data that you are gathering. But I think this is very promising. Thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Opposed, abstain. Very good. We move to the second half of today's doubleheader on homelessness and turn it over to Brian Pedro.
All right. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council. Brian Pedro, I'm the Director of the Department of Community Response. And today, along with our county partners, we'll be presenting the 6-month report for the City of Sacramento and Sacramento County Homeless Services Partnership Agreement. As you will see, it's a 6-month status report, and as I will point out before someone else does, it's June through December, which is actually 7 months. That is because the agreement originally started in December, and we went through did the first 6 months, which brought us to June. We're doing 7 months, and then we will next go back to a actual 6-month report. As a framework for everybody that's viewing this, this agreement was created to help coordinate strategies and improve efforts by combining our resources to serve persons experiencing homelessness within the city. We are now just over a year into the agreement. We've learned many lessons along the way, things we've done well, areas we can improve on, and then we are always focused on process improvement and providing better service to our homeless community. Though we have made great progress with the city-county partnership, we all realize that this is just a starting point and there's much more work for us to do. Lastly, I would like to remind everyone that the metrics we will see and review in this agreement are only part of many more services being provided from the city, the county, the state, coordinated access, coordinated entry, our community-based organizations, and all other service providers outside of this agreement. That said, we'll look at the highlights of there's also a comprehensive report that was handed out, and we will look at the highlights from that report. All right, so when we reviewed the agreement, we did a red, yellow, green for each category. Red indicating the section has not been initiated or addressed. Yellow indicating this section is in progress and has not fully met the requirements of the agreement, and then green indicating the requirement has been satisfied. We also broke them out into 4 categories: outreach services, shelter housing, training, and information, and then there is subcategories in each of the main topics. In the outreach category, we performed well. As you can see here, all subcategories have been met, and this category essentially includes our workers, our boots on the ground workers, ensuring that we have the 10 encampment teams consisting of DCR, HOPE, Cooperative, County Behavioral Health, and then Community Health Works. The agreement calls for 25 city encampment workers. We actually have 28 currently. It also calls for 10 county mental health workers, which they are providing 12 at this point. We, of course, are working within the 67% of the workers are working within the city. And then we have hired the 15 CalAIM workers. And what else do we have on here? The locations. So the locations are determined by the city. We're using a combination of a Salesforce map, and then we also look at the HMIS GIS mapping to determine sites of engagement. And then we are hitting the 20 large encampments per month. At a minimum, we are far exceeding that, as we discussed before. And then lastly, we have the navigation to get anybody back to home gladly buy you a bus ticket to get you home if needed. All right, our next category is services. The service category determines the access to services, programs, and referrals that are provided. So we start with our 4 core centers that are within the city limits. We have our X Street. It's Hope Cooperative is working there. We have Turning Point. Northgate, Burkett, we have Old El Hogar. Next there, we also have the Sobering Center within the city limits, which is, and also a Crisis Receiving Center on 7th and H, which is run by Wellspace. And then we have full service partnerships, enrollments, and also linking to other outpatient programs such as urgent care clinics. If the severe mental health service isn't required for an FSP. We also have diversion programs such as Laura's Law, which is the assisted outpatient programs, and substance use prevention and treatment programs. And then the Care Court, which I believe is coming online in December of this year. We do have one service that is yellow, and we were upfront on this. The Cowling workers weren't completely hired until December. We were bringing them up over the past 6 months, and so we gave ourselves a yellow in that category because they weren't fully up and going and providing that service, and like I said, until December. Our next category we have is shelter and housing. So in the shelter and housing category, the county successfully opened emergency shelter sites within 12 months. We have Florin and Power Inn that were in August, and then East Parkway that was open in December. And then the next one down is the within 36 months open the additional 200 beds, and we're on track to have the Watt site available. Next category, we have the city providing the shovel-ready site at Stockton Boulevard, and the county will be providing the 175 beds, and then there'll be an additional 25 from the Watt Avenue location to meet the 200-bed requirement there. The affordable housing plan was approved in October of 2023. That gives us a green there. And then the city and county, of course, we're continuing to apply for any grant funding that we have. The HAP funding, we have encampment resolution funding, and any other funds that we can possibly find, we will apply for. What else do we have on this, city and county? So on the yellow that we have on this, the city and county fully staffed integrated, shall fully integrate all shelter beds to the extent possible. Currently, the city is at 83%. The county will bring up their last 2 sites. That'll get them up to the mid-80s. And then there has been an agreement amongst all that that is going to be the extent possible that we will put into the coordinated access system. We will hold back shelters that we have to provide any kind of that ability to put anybody emergently into shelter. And so each of us will have our own available beds. And on the training information, so the county has, in the first category here, the county has provided the mental health first aid training to the city. This is training that's based on learning risk factors, warning signs, and strategies when dealing with our population. And then they have provided public health training for our shelters. Under the first yellow that we see here, the county advised city all processes for access to county programs. This was simply based on, I felt that our city workers didn't have a full understanding of all the programs that were available. We provided a list to the county. They have agreed to provide this training. Some of the trainings. The short list on this is APS has a senior shelter service. There's a crisis respite education that was requested, a CalWorks wellness team, and then just the basic understanding and run through of the 988 system. The next category we have talked several times about, and it's the data and sharing the data and information. We do know that the HMIS system is one program. The County Behavioral Health System is a separate program. There is development currently of the SHE, which is the Social Health Information Exchange, and I'm not sure of the timeline on the SHE. If you have an idea of a timeline on it. So the Health Information Exchange will allow obviously better cross-communication. Tim? Yes.
Hi there, Tim Lutz, Director of Health Services, Sacramento County. So yeah, the Social Health Information Exchange, we are in the final stages of vendor selection. We put out an RFP back in December, have been now 3 rounds of interviews with the respondents, just really narrowing down price and some of the details. Our hope is to then be able to bring that as an award to County Board of Supervisors in June or July. Our implementation timeline for the SHE, at least from what our project management team laid out, is 3 years. That being said, it's phased based on what data we're bringing in. The first set of data, year 1, is HMIS, our eligibility, Medi-Cal data. Really, I think where we see our core need, and then subsequent years would be bringing in some additional data from potentially schools, education, et cetera. So hopefully June or July, and then within the first year, being able to incorporate HMIS Medi-Cal information.
Thank you. And so that system really is to kind of do that crossover of the medical, non-medical information so that we're not concerned with the violation of personal health information, HIPAA violations, and tying that together. And then our last category in yellow here is the 5150 training for the city. We held back on this initially in whether we would actually use the 5150s and have decided since that we will get the training and determine if it's usable in our space, and the county has agreed to provide that training as well. The last slide is simply an overview of all of our categories. I can tell you that most of these areas that are yellow, even at this point, will be green within the next 2 months, 3 months at the most. And we're on track. We have worked very hard, have had many meetings, have discussed many ways that we can improve our program, and I think we've done some good work. We've moved the needle. I thank the county staff that we've been working with in helping us get to our green thoughts on this. There is another section that we will move on to that has some metrics, some numbers and metrics on it. And before we go on to that, if we wanted any questions at this point or continue on and look at the numbers.
Sorry.
Continue on.
Let's continue. Let's continue with the whole thing. Thank you.
So those will be on the overhead. I don't know if we can. And then if we can zoom in on this section.
Yeah, it's a handout. Everybody has it.
All right, so a quick look at this sheet that you have in front of you. Again, as we look at this, we'll remind everybody, this is strictly numbers off of the city-county agreement. There are many, many services that are provided outside of this agreement. And so if you look at these and aren't as impressed with the hard work that has been done to put these numbers up, there are a lot more numbers where this came from. So we'll start at the top there, and on looking at the right side, because I think the year gives us a better picture of everything that we've done. 5,192 unique locations. That's from our Salesforce data to find the actual locations that we've provided. 27,360 services were provided to the 388 unduplicated individuals. The 373 number there are unduplicated individuals with transitioning out of unsheltered homelessness. So those were from outreach to shelter or housing. Again, that number looks small if you look at it just because again, it's that data number. That's just this. An example is for the city, if we look at unsheltered to one of our sites within the city, Miller Park or OEC, that's another 552. And I'm sure the county has the same numbers outside of this, actually, or more numbers outside of this to give you an idea of there's many more people being taken from unsheltered to sheltered. And the rest is just a breakdown of all the services that we provided. I'd like Tim to come back up and discuss the behavioral health services. And Mayor, I have a gift for you from the county that Tim Lutz will provide after we get done with the initial briefings here. It's specifically on FSPs, so we can look at how we're doing on FSPs.
Well, thank you for, I don't know what to say. I'm just, I want to thank
That's great, Mayor.
I want to thank the Academy for
Thanks for setting that stage, Brian. It's usually, under promise and over deliver, but I hope, yeah. Well, thank you again, Mr. Mayor, council members. Tim Lutz, again, Health Services Director for Sacramento County. Let me first start off by thanking my HEART team leadership who's here in chambers with us. Sherry, the division manager, Monica, Kate and Lupe are our field-based managers and team leads. Really appreciate the ongoing work that they do day in, day out in our engaging with our unsheltered community. So thank you for being here. I'll start broad context. Obviously, behavioral health. We in Sacramento County operate a very large system, just under 35,000 clients that we serve, that we touch. We've learned a lot through this partnership agreement and through this last year of implementing HEART. Some of the things that we really learned was, and I appreciate the mayor's comments on data, is we know we don't always tell our story well. We know we don't always advocate the most for ourselves by articulating and showing the data and the outcomes. And that's something that certainly as a department, we're really digging into and wanting to produce more data and highlight outcomes and what we feel is the good work happening. So as we went through the partnership agreement, we identified, we're missing a lot of the work that's happening with our core centers and how it's helping those that are unhoused. I think it's important to note, a person does not have to be in an FSP to receive our flexible housing dollars. Our core patient, outpatient our core center outpatient treatment recipients, the clients, they have access to the full array of housing options that we do in behavioral health. So I think it's important to recognize there's a lot happening that this snapshot, unfortunately, is not capturing, and our goal is, as we get into this next reporting period, I really want to see a lot more outcomes laid out there for this council, the city, certainly Board of Supervisors, to be able to see the work that we're doing. That being said, I think we can definitely learn a lot from this data and kind of show where we see some positives and opportunities for us to continue to grow. I'll start off with individuals screened. So individuals screened is typically your first level of true engagement. It takes a while, typically, for encampment residents to get there. It takes a lot of trust building, a lot of repeated engagements. Could be 7, could be 10, 15. It's really about trust. It's really about trying to help them feel that the team is there to help. So when we do get them to the point of agreeing to engage, agreeing to a screen, we see about 86% that agree to really engage with us, then ultimately agree to be screened by our HEART team. What that screening does is then assesses them for placement to an outpatient treatment, our core centers, placement directly within an FSP, placement within to substance use treatment and services. So what we see and what we did last year, and again, staying focused on the January 1 through December 31st, is 380 individuals were enrolled following that process of screening. We identified 380 individuals. 79% of those referrals were going to our outpatient treatment programs, our core centers. And then 17% of those going to an FSP, directly into an FSP. And then 55 to substance use treatment. That there's overlap there. Some could be referred to an outpatient treatment and substance use simultaneously, or an FSP and substance use treatment. So the number's going to add up to more than 380. Then we start to look at what's the next level. We make that referral. We try and now link them and get them engaged in treatment. What we see then is 261 of those 380 went on and actually started to engage in treatment. Were linked to a provider, started to engage in services. Our highest drop-off rate is in our outpatient program, so 61% of those referred ultimately engaged in treatment. On our FSPs, 95% of those referred engaged, and then on our substance use treatment, 78%. So areas that we know we want to continue to build on is how do we capture those that we lose from you're now referred, why are you not linked, what are those barriers? Those are things that we're looking at. And of course, how can we continue to increase the range of people agreeing to be screened, assessed, referred, and then ultimately linked? Because we know there's the need out there. It's just how do we ensure that we can create an environment where people are willing to engage with us. I would like to spend a little bit of time on FSPs, because I know this is something that certainly came up in the 4x2, and I know it's come up frequently. So what I wanted to do is provide an additional data set and some context within our FSPs. So what we're seeing, at least with our homeless engagement teams, is between 17 to 22% of individuals that we're screening from our HEART teams are being screened or referred directly into an FSP. Our feeling is that number is comfortable, and I say again, and what I said earlier, that doesn't mean that if they're not in an FSP, they're not getting our flexible housing funds. We're still able to provide them rental support, move in, move out, ongoing flexible housing dollars to
Tim,
try and.
excuse me, can you just do the math again? Because I don't want to skip over that. I want to take that down, the math
Okay,
that you just.
the math again of,
Yeah.
we know that approximately 17 to 22% are being referred. When we screen them and do that assessment, what we're identifying is about 17 to 22% of those then are being assessed directly as, they should be in an FSP. Let's refer them and try and get them linked.
And where's the denominator, the number of people screened? What am I referring to on the?
If you go back to this would be the second bullet where we're saying 380 individuals. When you look at how many of them were enrolled or referred. So these are individuals that we've screened at one point, assessed to say we need to link them to our services. So that's 380 individuals. In this case, for this report in the city, 63 were then referred to straight into an FSP. So it's 63 over 380 is where the 17% comes from.
Thank you.
But what I also want to highlight is the pathway to the FSP. That's one pathway. A lot of times what we see is people aren't ready for the intense level of service that an FSP can require, which often is going to be daily, high-intensity meetings with a team of clinicians, therapists, et cetera. So that's a commitment, and that's a barrier that a lot of people aren't ready for, especially if they're just entering treatment services. So what happens is we refer people to an outpatient treatment core. After time, then they're assessed and ready to step up into an FSP. So just because they start off at an outpatient treatment doesn't mean they're going to always stay there. They might step up into a higher level of treatment. Additionally, you have people that are coming out of a facility. Maybe they've been in some type of a residential facility and now they're stepping down from that to a higher level of intensity. That's another pathway that people can enter into FSPs. So I say that because there are definitely a lot of pathways into the FSP, and it doesn't have to just be that initial screening and assessment from our teams. So I think the other question then, the overall question is, do we have enough FSPs? Are we adding capacity? So providing a new data sheet, and I'll start with there's the half line on there that kind of, there we go, thank you. And I can move it up when I get to that second part if you want, but there we go. So what this is showing, and hopefully you guys have a copy of this packet, I think you do, is the current and number of current enrollees, that is the number of current FSPs, 2,391. And then when you look at what our current capacity is, so that's how many available slots, total slots, 2,751. So that's the difference between that 2,751 and the 2,391 is the available slots. That's our capacity to make sure that we have space when somebody, meets the criteria, is ready, we can step them into that FSP. Last year, 2023, we added 360 additional FSP slots. And then in April, we're taking to the County Board of Supervisors an additional 200 Thrive FSP slots. And Thrive are our forensic FSP slots, so justice involved, that are being released into the community and linking into an FSP. So the first piece that I want to make sure that the council is aware is we are committed to continuing adding FSP slots where we know the need is there, and we've continued to do that over the last few years. when we look at our FSP numbers across the state, you'll see the first bar graph right there. Orange is Sacramento County, green is the state of California as a whole. And then there's a number of other large counties as kind of a baseline comparison. Given that every population, some counties are bigger, some are smaller, these numbers have been adjusted for population. So this is the number of FSPs per 1,000 people within each of these counties. You'll see by and far, Sacramento at this point has a larger number of FSP slots per 1,000 people than the bulk of certainly the urban counties, and pretty significantly higher than that of the state of California on a per 1,000 basis. The only two counties that have a higher number of FSPs is Kern County and San Diego County. And clearly, and I'll call out, San Diego is a definite outlier in this. Our team is engaged in talking to San Diego about what exactly they're doing, what their outcomes are, because again, FSPs, typically you're going to be having a higher level of services, make sure you have enough clinicians to be able to do the more intensive case management ratios. Is it working for them? What are the outcomes? So those are things that we're digging into to look at San Diego. But why I highlight this is I think it does show us where I feel comfortable in our investment in FSPs and kind of where we're at, and our continued efforts to add as needed. And I'll highlight then the second graph on there where you see the line graph and then the bar graph. The bar graph represents, and apologies on that screen, it's hard to read the black text, but the bar graph represents the number of FSP slots we've added over the last 10 years. We used fiscal year 21-22 here because that was the last year we had statewide comparison to be able to show. But you'll see we've steadily added FSP slots, really leveled off, but not really a decline. Whereas the yellow or the orange statewide line, you can see it coming up and also dipping back down. We really haven't pulled back to the level that statewide we've seen in the reduction in FSP numbers. As the mayor noted, if Prop 1 does pass, I imagine these numbers are going to change significantly in a lot of different counties and things that we're looking at closely. But I highlight these two pieces, one, to try and at least help provide some clarity and context behind the county's use of FSPs and our comfort with us trying to find that sweet spot in the array of FSPs over outpatient treatment.
Thank you. Thank you so much. We still have more presentation? Thank you, Tim. You know you're going to come back up in a few minutes. It's okay. It's all good. Go ahead.
Mayor?
Yes, please.
That was your gift.
Yes. You know what? And it's not a bad. It's a good gift. Thank you. I of course want to have some dialogue about it. But that's what's good. That's how we're going to help each other here. So go ahead.
All right, sir. We're back to you for any questions that you have.
Now it is us. Okay. Do we have any testimony, Madam Clerk?
Mayor, I have no speaker slips on this item.
Okay. Very good. Let's then turn it over to the council, and I'll save mine for last because I want to listen to everybody here. Councilmember Valenzuela.
Thank you for all of that. I'm sitting over here Googling things and taking copious notes. Really great to have this in succession after the action plan conversation too, so we can see it in context. I have a question about, I'm glad to see that we're meeting the mark on shelter beds, and that's obviously super important. And I wonder if there's a plan to move that goalpost once we reach it, because I can imagine, obviously, if the beds are still being filled, that's one thing, but once those beds get full, it was 400 beds total, I think, in there, or 600. So is there a plan or a strategy to potentially keep going as those beds fill up until we can address the prevention and the housing that we talked about earlier.
I can speak to that. Councilmember, we don't have any current plans to expand what we have. As you saw the HAP plan before, we're funding existing shelter beds with the funding that we have available. I believe once we get the updated gap analysis, that will probably spur some additional conversations as to where we need to do some additional investments. What you didn't see on that listing or what we're reporting here is that the Roseville Road site that we stood up, we did apply for a grant to see if we can do some expansion there. And we might be able to tinker around the margins on some of the other sites that we have available. But other than those sites that we already have up and running, it's a matter of enhancing and maximizing what we have available and then looking for additional funding and then waiting. I think that gap analysis will probably spur some additional conversation. One of the things that we as you guys talked about previously, prevention really is a key to improving the throughput, right, and preventing the shelter capacity that we do have from being cluttered. And we do have to improve throughput and work on the prevention side in order for what we have, the inventory we have, to be used at its maximum efficiency.
Yeah, no, I definitely appreciate that. And it's a tough balance because I'm a huge fan of the prevention and housing strategies that we named earlier. But there's always that question of like, what do we do now? What do we do today? We know it will take us a long time to get those resources up. And so that's why I mentioned before, like, what does it look like? What does that funding infusion need to be to help us correct and get to that new redesigned system so that we aren't investing so much in triage? But that also doesn't mean we can abandon triage either. And so that's something that, I mean, to my colleagues who sit on the 2x4 and all of that stuff, I would love to see, because I think once we hit that goal, it's great. And I'm really excited that those beds have opened and I hope they're filling up. But I also want to acknowledge that the need to, how do we evaluate and consider scaling up? Because yes, we have a new gaps analysis coming out, but we know what the 2022 gaps analysis said. And we know where we stand today because our outreach workers are doing a lot of great case management and they're helping with documents and they're helping with food and they're helping with all those things. But the housing and shelter numbers are low because the throughput issue is there. So like that's part of the sort of how do we balance, which is why I'm a fan of, that's why I was pushing things like safe camping and parking, which I know not everybody is a huge fan of, but it's something that we can stand up fairly quickly that doesn't require sometimes the same infrastructure investment as a more permanent site would. And so it's something that just, I hope that my colleagues at the 2x4 can talk about because this is good progress in a short amount of time, but also not, we all know what we're seeing on the streets is that we still have more work to do. We haven't gotten there yet. So I don't know what that looks like, but would love to hear more updates as we continue to come back. I also noted, Brian, that when you talked about the beds and the coordinated access system, you mentioned holding back beds from the coordinated access system for emergency purposes. And I want to talk about that a little bit because we get our HAP money and other funding based on the amount of estimated unsheltered people in the city. And so it was my assumption that if the city stood up, a shelter system that with money that we got from the feds or the state to house people in the city, that the people who were unsheltered in the city would be going into those beds. And this is something I've talked with Lisa about before and others prior to you about how do we balance the need to be responsive to high needs people who might need to be sheltered first with the very real fact that if you open a shelter in South Sacramento, I would expect that people who lived in South Sacramento currently would get some sort of preference going into that. And at the time, we thought that would be possible, that it would be possible in a system. I'm not an IT geek, but I assume there's a way to say, hey, we're going to keep a certain number of beds open in the system in case there's an emergency, and we're going to make sure that the beds we fill are based on some sort of weighting of criteria for where these folks were staying before they came into the shelter. So I'd hope you could talk a little bit more about that, because it doesn't sound like, if we're having to hold back beds from the coordinated access system, it doesn't sound like that might be happening at that way.
Yeah, and so it's not holding back beds.
Okay.
So it is the beds that are outside of the coordinated access system, such as our OEC and our Roseville Road, that don't have to funnel through the coordinated access system. We have the ability to place people in those systems. So we aren't holding any beds opened.
Okay.
We're just not putting
all the beds in.
All the beds in the coordinated access system.
So then it comes back to the other question I had when Yayin was up here, which is like, how do we get people into the system if there's multiple points of entry? Because I thought that was one of the goals of the coordinated access system, was that we'd all be at the table, we'd all be a part of deciding how people filtered through, but that there would be one point of entry for that filter. And so that's not happening with all of the city shelter beds, is what you're saying.
So the motels program
Yeah.
that we have, all of those beds are in the coordinated access
Yeah.
system, and those go through the system.
Yeah, and X Street and Meadowview, I didn't hear you mention those. I
Yeah,
assume
so the
they're
only
as
ones
well.
we have are the ones that DCR has control over, is putting into OEC and Roseville Road.
Okay.
And so those are,
So to get into those, people would need to call a different number.
so those would be anybody that contacts us.
Okay.
Anybody we make contact with. On the county side, same thing. Anybody that they make contact with that they have the ability to grab and put in. But again, like you said, we're at capacity.
Of course. Yeah, and this is a hypothetical
Even if we had them
scenario
in the
for-
system,
Yeah.
they would be full.
No, of course. And that's what, I mean, it's a hypothetical scenario that we have 100 open beds, and yay, would not be an amazing luxury, and how do we intake people? So I guess to the point, though, the bigger question of how do we prioritize who goes where? Like, is there any, and this might be a better question for Lisa, but is there a current way for us to say, hey, the city is paying for Roseville Road using city dollars that we got for city unsheltered numbers, and we expect that that will be given priority? Obviously, if there's an emergency case in the county, we're not going to be like, no, but is there a way to do that currently in the coordinated access system?
Lisa, I'll let you speak on that. Yes.
There's primarily two things that are happening with coordinated access system. One, we have a vulnerability scale. So when people call in or are done an assessment on the street with an outreach worker, we're taking in various bits of data about the situation for that individual. And then based on how vulnerable they are then ranked in terms of priority for shelters within the CAS system. The second overlay, though, is geographic preferences. So many of the shelters have geographic preferences. And so when we are determining who we can give that bed to when an opening occurs, if there is a geographic preference, we first look for folks that are within the boundaries that have been identified, and then secondly, their vulnerability. One of the things that we are working on with the city and the county is to adopt an extremely vulnerable household policy where we can do more immediate placements, which will require some bridge resources until shelters become available, but hopefully will address the immediacy of someone who's, highly vulnerable, a family with lots of kids. We want to be able to get them into a space as soon as possible. And so we're close to having that policy also released. And then I would say the Roseville Road and the OEC, and then the county has their scattered sites. Those are kind of also operating as additional kind of emergency capacity or helping with law enforcement and other entities that don't regularly connect with the system. So it's helping build some of that, a little bit of flexibility.
Okay. But I'm not, do I understand HAP correctly in that we're getting money and the county gets money based on estimated, like, unsheltered population and other sort of factors?
Point in time count
Yeah.
data, so it's sheltered and unsheltered. It's
Okay.
people who are homeless.
So like we get money for that and the county gets money for their estimated numbers. So the shelters that we fund, this is now a different type of question, I guess. The shelters that we fund with city resources that we're getting for, based on how many people are unsheltered here, those shelters, are they only taking in people who are unsheltered in the city?
No, the idea with a coordinated access system is that it's available to the system. Now, with a preference, a geographic preference, that will tend to be those within that. So obviously more city folks if you're in the River District or if you're, in a location where that preference exists.
Okay. I guess that would be like a broader just consideration for my colleagues, and then I'll stop talking. I mean, we get so limited HAP dollars, as we saw in the previous presentation, and we're using it to open these shelters, and we're getting that money based on the number of people, which is considerable, that are assumed to be unhoused within the city limits. And so I would assume that all of the city shelters would have some sort of, maybe not it's a hardcore requirement, but at least like some sort of clear preference that, hey, these dollars came for the estimated people here, so we're gonna, like, these are the folks who are getting in.
Yeah, so I should say.
Obviously, unless there's an emergency or something happening.
The estimates are usually at the county level, so the point-in-time count is looking at the whole entire county. Obviously, the city has the majority. But the other thing I would say is the reverse is true, though. So the county shelters are accepting folks within the city. So the idea was that we shouldn't have a lot of barriers to access sheltering. We should just get people sheltered as quickly as we can.
Well, of course. I mean, of course I agree with that, but I also hear from, like, I have River District in my district, right? And so I hear from those folks saying, look, we have all these shelters, we have all this stuff happening. Why are there so many unhoused people on our streets who still don't have shelter? Why are there people coming from other parts of the city or county when we open the shelter here and there should be some sort of intake preference here because we have the shelter here? And I think that's just a broader conversation. I obviously don't want to be isolationist and say that like our dollars only go to our people, but I'm also bringing up a little broader point of how do we make sure that there's sufficient county resources being spent on those shelter beds so that we're not continuing to be the main hub of the wheel here for when all of the cities in the county have people experiencing homelessness as well. That makes sense.
Might be a good conversation when we come back with the CAS report.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Talamantes?
Thank you, Mayor. Brian, and to the county, thank you so much for getting me these FSP numbers. The last time we had this meeting a few months ago, I was really curious about it just because I wanted to fully understand as a council member what it meant to be an FSP. And I mean, it's all it takes. And the data here is important for everyone in the city of Sacramento and the county of Sacramento to really understand and see for themselves. So thank you. And then similarly to this, I was wondering for the county, for the behavioral health services, if we can get a similar chart for what it looks like, 380 people were served for this year, if we can get it for 2019, 2018, and kind of do a similar pie chart to this.
Potentially. The challenge is, so we changed our entire outpatient treatment model really starting 2022. So data might not equally line up, but I hearing your request of, again, you're looking at outpatient treatment services across behavioral health, or you're looking at FSP numbers specifically?
Outpatient.
Okay. It won't probably line up exactly because of how we've done some restructuring within behavioral health as we've just modernized. But I definitely think there's an opportunity for us to be able to pull some historical information together. I just don't know exactly what that'll look like, and it'll take us a little bit of time.
Okay, thank you. And similarly to Councilmember Guerra's comments in the last hearing about homelessness, like we need to make sure we have measurables and what does it mean to be successful. And serving 380 people is okay, but we need to do better for the people of the city of Sacramento because everyone's frustrated with homelessness. So our numbers need to show the work that we've done with our taxpayer dollars. So thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor. I'll keep my comments really brief. Just having seen this already in the 4x2, just really want to appreciate all the work in and just one thing that, and I think this has been mentioned a couple times up here, but one thing I think we need to collectively get better at is around our storytelling. I think that the mayor's mentioned this before. I certainly have constituents that are not always aware of what we're doing. Like, what are the actual services that are offered? What are the numbers? And I think that some people take that as, because what they're seeing on the streets is not a demonstrable difference in their opinion. They can sometimes take that as we're not doing anything. And of course, we know that's not true. We know there's a lot of really great work that's happening all over the region and in the county. And so I think highlighting those stories, letting people know the numbers in a really digestible way is going to be important for as we communicate with folks moving forward. But overall, just appreciate the hard work that went into this. Thanks.
Thank you. Councilman Guerra?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, I want to thank our city team and our county team and all of the partners involved here. I think an important thing for this council to look at and I want to appreciate is where we have evolved as two different government agencies. And I know Councilmember Maple always brings up this, the need for a joint powers authority or some type of regional approach. And I think the partnership agreement is that first step. If I think back when we first sat down to put this partnership agreement together, the things we argued about or the things we discussed at the time have, through all the green dots that have been put up, have been accomplished. And that, I think, is an important takeaway here today. The fact that now we have 28 encampment workers, 12 behavioral health special services staff, and at least until the fall, if that's correct, Mr. Lutz, the 15 Cal AIM outreach staff, those are pretty recent at least. And even with that, that time frame, we've been able to contact and make individual contacts and support to 3,855 people, unduplicated. Because I know many times we go out on multiple times, but these are unduplicated contacts. And, I think the number 380 gets thrown around a lot. It's an important number, but that's only a small segment of the population that fits a very extreme need for service. We see the larger number visibly on the street, and that is where I think one thing that can't be lost here is that we have made that in a very short amount of time since we created this city-county partnership agreement, being able to move forward. And I hope this agreement and the outcomes of the agreement become, I think what is critical, the evidence for other jurisdictions to join in with the county. I would say like the hub and spoke, where other jurisdictions join in this effort so that there is better coordinated, active engagement of people that are on the street, to Councilmember Valenzuela's point, making sure that we're making responses to the people who are facing it now. So I think it can't be lost how different it is. I know I've talked to many business owners, neighbors, and seen that in the last, since we started the partnership, how faster we've been able to respond, the changes we've been able to respond. And even then, just this weekend, I got a call from a constituent that lives right on Stockton Boulevard, who will see a person that'll camp right in front of their home, right in front of their place where they go to walk to be able to access public transportation, to be able to go to their place of work and present a challenge. So I know we've got more work ahead, but the final point here, I think the takeaway is the evolution of where we are today. I think the point that was made earlier, how our behavioral health has modernized since 2022, and the response where now we're combining both what is our traditional responses from the city and the county. To me, it's not so much what the numbers are here today, but what the direction and where the trajectory is. Where we're a city that is moving forward with a clear purpose and trajectory on making visible impacts and changes. And regardless of who's in these seats here, we have the staff now and the infrastructure in place to move forward to achieve that. And I think that's an important takeaway that I saw here, based on this agreement. And I hope that this builds on so that future governing boards will be able to use this, the framework, to actually make some measurable results. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. My turn. Thank you so much. I want to pick up on the last thing you said, Councilman Guerra, because I think it's really important, and that is the evolution. The first city-county meeting or the only one actually, we had jointly during my tenure back in 2017, let's just say was a bit of a rough experience for everybody involved. You could feel the the tension, the historic differences, the finger pointing, all of it. And of course, the succeeding years were not always easy. We don't have to, talk around all that. What is significant about today is the feel of this meeting for me. It is a real conversation. It's fact-based. It's remarkable, actually. And again, when Lisa Bates tells us that collectively we've gotten 25,000 people, and she's very specific about it, by the way, from unsheltered status to housed, take that as at least an affirmation that the struggles we have had together over the years and separately, and where we have come, has actually, if nothing else, helped tens of thousands of lives. And that's a good and a great thing. And of course, the partnership agreement does not sit alone. It is in addition to the significant additional investments the county has made over recent years in mental health, our incident command structure, our shelter system itself, all related, by the way, 1,350 beds from a low of less than 100 7 years ago. So there's a lot to feel good about, including the partnership agreement itself, because it is the bones, it's a foundation. Eric is right. I actually, I know we're not debating it tonight, but I actually think some form of more formal joint governance would be a really good thing. And, not but, we actually achieved the beginnings of that through the city-county partnership agreement, because it is a legally binding agreement. It isn't one of these things, it's not a statement of principles. And that's nice, but it's a legally binding agreement. We're bound to each other for better results. And so when I talk about, and I know y'all tease me a little bit about this FSP issue, I want to, the challenge in my seat, is how to be both supportive, genuinely grateful for the hard work that the people in the audience and that others in this field, in the city and county and in the nonprofit world, the hard work that they're doing every single day, how to genuinely appreciate that, and at the same time, be a little bit pointed only for the good of the order, only for the purpose of trying to push each other. Because when we push each other, then we tend to get better results. The partnership agreement didn't happen because it was all nicey nice all the time. It happened because there was creative tension. So when I talk about this, and when I ask some pointed questions, I hope it's seen in that light, because I am genuinely appreciative of how hard everyone's working and the foundation that you have built. It's different, and it is better. And yet, it is still about even better results. And so now to the FSPs. Why is this so important? It's just a term. It's just a term. It's a vernacular. But it's the same thing that we created, as I talked about under the last item, in 1999 and 2000, the integrated services for the homeless mentally ill. It's whatever it takes. It's the wraparound program for people with the most chronic conditions. And as Tim said a few moments ago, that the county, even with its data, finds remarkably better outcomes with the FSPs than it does with the outpatient, at least in terms of who continues to participate in the program, if I heard that right. Well, that's for an obvious reason. Under the FSPs, you're applying actual case management. There's somebody actually, maybe they call it wraparound for a reason, right? They wrap themselves around the person who's really hurting and make sure that mental health, substance abuse, vocational, housing, shelter, driver's license, clearing arrest records, whatever it takes. That's why we had such remarkable results when we did AB 34 in 2034, and what we could replicate today. So that's why it's important. If the ESG, which is the CalAIM vernacular, Enhanced support,
ECM.
that's what I meant. ECM, enhanced care management, thank you, was as good as the FSPs. It would, for the people who need it, it would contain that wraparound component, and it doesn't necessarily. That program through CalAIM is intended to help people who are really have trouble and have real need, but not as much need as the people we see on our streets every single day in these encampments. And so, Tim, when you present the FSP data, the chart with the orange, and you can come up if you'd like, because I'd like to engage just a little bit with you. It is impressive, and the county is moving, it is increasing its numbers, and I thank you for that. And by the way, all the people who receive it, no doubt, are in need. But what this chart does not do, it does not differentiate between those who are chronically homeless and those who are not. FSPs are for people who are housed and for people who are chronically homeless. Now, if I were you, I'd respond by saying, well, we prevent people from becoming homeless when we put them in those FSPs. That's a good answer. You didn't even say it.
Which is a true answer for sure.
I understand. Okay, I do understand. And yet, you have more capacity that isn't filled yet. And so, the condition on our streets is the community cry for help. And when I look at the results here, the question that comes to mind for me is whether or not, both as a city and a county, but especially the county through the HEART team, which I've met the people, they're wonderful, whether or not we are applying enough, and this is my word, intensity to these encampments to actually get more people off the streets. That's a question. Not saying we are or aren't, but it's a question, because we go through the checklist of what we're meeting, and we say that we are, as multidisciplinary teams, in 20 tent encampments per month, all right? And just to take the 6-month data, because the first 6 months you're still hiring and bringing people on board, but June 1 through December 30th, you have 26 people enrolled in FSPs. Now, it's all rough math, but if it's 20 encampments a month over 5 or 6 months, that's 100 encampments. 26 people enrolled in FSPs. I have one motive and one motive only, and it's the exact same motive as everybody else on this dais and everybody else at the county board and everybody who's working on the issue. We just want to get more people who are really sick off the streets. So I go into the Core Center at 14th and X, beautiful, by the way, well-run, people being taken good care of. And I'm told that it takes, and by the way, the people who walk in there, I'm not a doctor, but on appearance, they look like the people who would need and qualify for FSPs, just based on appearance. Maybe that's unfair and stereotypical, but they look like they need whatever it takes. It's 90 days at the day center before they can even be applied for an FSP. And then you've got the street, and that's another category, I know, but just on the street outreach itself, because that's where the HEART teams are going, if we have 26 over 6 months that are actually enrolled, it begs the question for me, are we, and this is the city too, because I've raised this with the city in terms of DCR, are we doing too much of a light touch in these encampments, or are we sticking with them until we can build that trust between the HEART worker and the individual, and not giving up until we get them out? You check the box as well that, and I forget exactly how it was put, that the involuntary treatment piece it was checked with a blue check, I think, that for people who are eligible. Well, we can't explain to the public why it is we don't have the person running around half naked in some sort of a program. And if we're not getting to them, we collectively, all of us, have to ask why. And so there is a question here going forward about the intensity of our approach and whether or not we are spending enough time and intensity in each of these big encampments to be able to actually get more people enrolled in the highest level of service. And I'd like to discuss that. I'd like to put that on the table. We did it in the 4x2. You'll go back now, everyone will distill the meeting, and there'll be more conversations, because this should all be about our collective effort to get even better results. And on enrolling people in the most intensive services, I think our numbers need to come up and pretty dramatically. Because if they don't, those same people who are sometimes the most difficult for our neighborhoods and our business corridors are going to remain out there. So I know there's not a, I think this is the next area for dramatic improvement. And by the way, let me give a caveat here, knowing that a lot of the success of FSPs has to depend on more housing supports, which we don't have enough of. We're short on the housing, on the shelter. That's why we need the hundreds of additional beds that are going to be coming online, and more affordable housing, and more quick flow through the shelters, right? Because people shouldn't be staying in the shelters longer than they have to, so we make up more room. This is the systems issue that I know Steps Forward and the city and county are working on together. But this is the one area, and it's the big area, in addition to outcome-based data, which will help evaluate this, that I think we need to work on together. Please.
That is a lot to.
It is a lot, and you don't even have to respond, because I think you're doing a good job, and I think we.
Well, let me. I will say, and first of all, I appreciate the passion and the perspective. I think we all can agree. We want to see people that are suffering in the streets in a more appropriate place. I think FSPs can be challenging because not everybody is ready for that level of service. But how do we then, if they're not ready for that, blend our approach to offer the other elements of whatever it takes to get them there? I think one of the challenges we have is every county interprets how they develop and build an FSP a little differently. You can have different components. And I think that's a fair question to be asking ourselves. And it's one that I will say in behavioral health, those are questions we are asking ourselves of, what is that right mix? I like your comment on how intensity, because I know certainly if I ask that heart team, they will say absolutely more time to be engaging with the residents, more time to be developing those relationships, doing that intensity. And typically we respond, our heart team responds based on how DCR asks us to respond or go out to. So I think having those discussions about what is the right cadence. I know we're not co-deploying as often anymore, and I think intentionally so the heart team can try and develop more rapport. But I think when we look at the data between what we're seeing on the county team side and the city team side, there will be differences, positives and negatives on both sides, that we can learn from each of those interactions and fine-tune our model and our approach.
Let me acknowledge again that the city is part of this as well, because under the partnership agreement, the city directs which encampments we want the heart team to engage in. But I do want to take issue with, and this is the back and forth that I think is really healthy and important. When you say that one of the reasons that we're not enrolling more people in FSPs out of the heart team is that many people are not ready, it ignores the fact that one of the key ingredients to getting them ready is the consistent trust building that only takes place through the intensive and regularized outreach. And that's why I asked the question that I asked, which is, are we doing is it too light of a touch? Because the literature, the evidence, all demonstrates that the people we are successful with, and you've been successful with many people, is they get, you don't give up on them after the first pass, the second pass, the third pass, the fourth pass. It, yes, can take months. But we get those people off the street, because if you start from the place that says it's unacceptable for people who are in this condition to be living out here, then we go out as many times as we need to in order to get them. Now, we have constraints on the back end, and that is the housing and shelter. I understand that. And I hope we focus more on intensity. Thank you. Thank you, thank you. Okay. I think that's it. Do we have any, oh, we do we have speakers on this one now?
I do not have speakers on this item. I have one for matters not on the agenda.
Okay, I think, first of all, let me thank all the county, Sacramento Steps Forward folks, our city team. And let's do this every week. Yeah, okay. All right, we do have 2 speakers for items not on the agenda.
I just have one speaker. It's Kai Own. Is Kai still here? Thank you.
He's already working with this gentleman who's going to speak right now.
Okay.
He's looking for an old report like from 20 years ago, and he wants the chief to sign a letter.
Okay.
So your document should be face up, and I can turn it on as soon as you get started.
Good afternoon, Mr. Mayor and all the council member. I sent a request to SPD chief to confirm my father, Woon Kong-on, was killed by hit-and-run driver Mr. Fong at downtown Sacramento, but SPD refused to do it. I don't understand why. That's the basic information that who killed my father, and the case was a hit and run, and she denied to confirm with her signature. And 6 months ago, I already present my original birth certificate to SPD to make a copy to prove that I'm eligible to get the information of the death of my father. Mr. Mayor, yeah, please, if you can order an investigation to see I was given fake information about the truth of my father's case.
Okay, I know that the police department, after the last time you came here, is looking into this. Mr. Assistant City Manager?
That is correct, Mayor. I know that we're trying to get you a copy of the full investigation. You're asking for a letter that doesn't, you're asking for a letter signed by the chief. It's not appropriate, but we are trying to get you as much documents as we possibly can involving the investigation.
I am not a law enforcement. I'm not a lawyer. You give me a police investigation report. It doesn't tell me.
So tell me what it is then you need, because we don't have the ability, for example, like to interpret or give you advice. We can give you the public document.
No, not public document. I just need the handout already indicate that. I just need the police chief to tell me Mr. Fong was the driver that killed my father.
So Mr. Assistant, can somebody have a conversation from the police department with the gentleman to try to actually answer what seems like a reasonable question? It seems like a reasonable question.
I will follow up with Mr. Kyle.
Okay.
And
yes.
Because I have contacted the SPD 6 months already.
Mr. Own, your time is complete. I have shared your contact information with our assistant.
We will make sure that
Mr. Lara.
Mr. Lara will
So
try
I'm
to.
asking for a written hand signature confirmation.
Thank you for
I
your
don't know
comments.
what you'll get, but he will have a conversation with you, and we'll give you every public document we can give you. It may not be exactly in the way that you want it, but we'll try to get you the answer to the very reasonable and compelling question that you're asking. And you suffered a terrible loss, so we want to be responsive, but you may not get it in exactly the way that you're asking, okay? So you have to work with Mr. Lara
Yeah,
here.
I understand, but
Okay.
name of the driver is a basic
If
information.
if that is something that can be released publicly, then we'll release that to you. And if not, then we can't. But that'll be up to Mr. Lara and our city attorney to decide whether or not that is legal for us to do so. That's all, sir. That's it, okay?
No more speakers.
Okay, we'll continue. Thank you. All right, there's nothing else to come before the city council and the housing authority. We adjourn until 5 o'clock. Thank you.